The sharp scent of medical alcohol mixed with the steady rhythm of a ventilator-filled hospital room, 402. I am Whitney, a financial appraiser in my early 30s, who assumed this would be a completely normal visit to my grandfather. Stepping closer to his bed, I expected to see a fragile old man drifting comfortably in a medicated sleep. His frail body remained heavily tethered to countless intravenous tubes, pumping clear fluids into his veins. However, his eyes were unexpectedly wide open with a terrifyingly sharp glare that pierced right through my soul. Before I could even speak a word of comfort, Arthur suddenly raised his bony arm with surprising strength. He grabbed my wrist tightly while discreetly pressing a thick sealed craft envelope deep into the palm of my hand. He pulled my head down near his trembling lips to deliver a warning that instantly froze the blood in my veins. "They are watching us right now, so do not open this here," he whispered in a broken but fiercely resolute tone. "Absolutely do not tell your parents a single word about this envelope, because you only have 24 hours left." Without wasting a single second on pointless questions, I immediately shoved the thick paper package deep into the inside pocket of my winter coat. I forced my expression to remain completely neutral, while turning around to walk straight out into the freezing fluorescent hospital corridor. What kind of terrifying secret could possibly be trapped inside that envelope to make my own grandfather hide it from my parents? Drop your thoughts in the comments below if you have ever discovered a shocking family betrayal. Hit that subscribe button right now to join me in uncovering this horrifying truth before the clock runs out. The car engine shut off completely, leaving an absolute silence enveloping the pitch-black garage of our suburban home. I stepped out of the vehicle with a singular focus driving my rapid movements as I walked swiftly through the dimly lit hallway directly into my home office. I twisted the heavy brass lock until it clicked securely into place, while my husband Elliot immediately sprang into tactical action right beside me. He yanked the thick blackout curtains tightly closed across the glass panels to completely obscure any potential view from the empty street outside. "Unplug the router right now because we cannot afford to leak any signals from this house at this moment," Elliot instructed in a hushed tone, while simultaneously pressing down the power buttons on both of our mobile phones until their glowing screens went totally black. He quickly reached into his leather work briefcase, pulling out a specialized radio frequency sweeper he occasionally utilized during corporate architectural security audits. He paced methodically around the entire perimeter of the confined room, scanning the tall wooden bookshelves along with the overhead ceiling fixtures to guarantee absolutely nobody was listening to our private conversation. The compact device eventually emitted a solid green light, confirming our immediate environment remained perfectly secure from any hidden audio surveillance equipment. I finally allowed myself to exhale a deep breath I had unknowingly been holding inside my chest before picking up a sharp steel letter opener from my cluttered desk. I sliced directly through the heavy craft paper flap with one single swift motion, allowing the hidden contents to spill freely onto the smooth wooden surface. My eyes immediately locked onto a small brass key typically utilized for secure banking lockers, resting quietly next to a crisp white business card. The card bore the intimidating official seal of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, alongside the printed name of a federal agent. However, the most crucial item lying on the desk was a torn piece of lined notebook paper containing absolutely no sentimental farewell messages or lengthy historical explanations concerning his past actions. The fragile sheet held only 3 hastily scribbled sentences written in my grandfather Arthur's distinctive yet noticeably deteriorating handwriting. Those few fragmented thoughts did not uncover the entire massive scope of the hidden conspiracy currently surrounding our family wealth. They functioned instead as a brutal life or death warning that instantly caused the blood flowing through my veins to run freezing cold. I stared down at the terrifying dark ink strokes, struggling fiercely to process the horrifying new reality of my situation. He wrote, "Do not trust your parents. Safe deposit box 402. If I die, it is not natural." Hearing those exact terrifying words spoken aloud within the quiet room completely shattered my fundamental understanding of the very people who had raised me. Elliot gently took the fragile scrap of paper from my trembling fingers, folding it carefully into a small square before tucking it securely deep inside his shirt pocket. He placed a warm, steadying hand on my tense shoulder to effectively ground my spiraling thoughts, while he quickly outlined our necessary course of action for the upcoming hours. We needed to gather all of my legal identification documents tonight, so we could beat whoever was currently watching us to the central bank branch. We had to arrive there the exact second the security guards unlocked the heavy glass front doors tomorrow morning. Our absolute main priority was discovering exactly whatever concrete evidence Arthur had intentionally locked inside that specific metal box before my parents or their unknown associates could execute their next destructive move against him. At exactly 5:15 in the morning, the harsh winter chill cast a thick layer of white frost across the windshield of our vehicle. We made a rapid detour to the quiet suburban residence of my best friend Sarah to safely drop off my young son Theo, while the neighborhood remained completely enveloped in total darkness. I handed the sleepy boy carefully into her welcoming arms while sternly instructing her to lock every single deadbolt immediately after we departed. I made her swear she would absolutely not open the front door for anyone under any circumstances whatsoever, until I personally returned to retrieve him from her care. Elliot maneuvered our car back onto the dangerously icy main road heading straight toward the Carmel Central Bank branch, with an aggressive focus driving his movements. He continuously adjusted the rearview mirror with tense hands while navigating the desolate intersections leading toward the towering commercial banking district. There is a black SUV exactly 2 car lengths behind us, and it has been tailing us ever since we left Sarah's house, he stated in a low voice entirely devoid of any panic. We intentionally executed 3 random consecutive turns through empty residential side streets, yet the dark vehicle flawlessly mirrored our exact path before finally dropping back into the shadows as we approached the main plaza. We stepped purposefully through the heavy glass doors, the precise second the armed security guard unlocked the main entrance for the daily financial operations. I marched directly toward the primary customer service counter to present my identification documents to the teller, standing behind the polished marble desk. The young woman exhibited a highly abnormal hesitation upon reading my last name, while her trembling fingers nervously hovered over her computer keyboard. "The system is currently undergoing maintenance, ma'am, so could you please wait in the seating area for just a moment?" she suggested with a remarkably unconvincing customer service smile pasted on her face. I clearly noticed her left hand sliding stealthily beneath the wooden counter to grasp a mobile phone while attempting to secretly dial an unknown number to alert somebody of our arrival. I completely ignored her obvious stalling tactics while reaching deep into my leather tote bag to pull out the heavily stamped legal documents Arthur had prepared. I slammed the comprehensive medical and financial power of attorney flat onto the desk surface directly in front of the quickly approaching branch manager. "I possess a legally binding supreme power of attorney, so open that vault door right now before I call my lawyer," I demanded with absolute authority, leaving absolutely zero room for further negotiation. The manager visibly swallowed hard before quickly reviewing the undeniable official signatures, validating my full legal access to the requested property. He nervously escorted us down a narrow staircase into the climate-controlled subterranean vault, heavily lined with hundreds of identical cold metal compartments. He inserted his master key alongside my brass key to unlock box 402, allowing me to swiftly retrieve a heavy encrypted metal hard drive from the dark interior space. I secured the cold metallic device safely inside my bag before turning around to ascend the stairs back up to the brightly lit main lobby. While walking briskly toward the exit doors, I briefly glanced up at a glowing security monitor displaying the live camera feed of the exterior street corner. The pixelated screen clearly revealed the unmistakable figure of Caleb, standing partially obscured within a shadowed alleyway, directly across the busy street. Caleb was staring intently straight through the bank's front glass windows with a predatory stillness that sent a fresh wave of terror rushing down my freezing spine. At exactly 9:30 in the morning, the laptop screen cast a pale gray-blue light across the smooth surface of our kitchen table. Elliot firmly inserted the heavy metallic hard drive into the computer port, while his fingers flew rapidly across the illuminated keyboard to initiate the data extraction process. A stark red warning prompt immediately appeared on the monitor demanding a complex decryption sequence to bypass the military-grade security protocols guarding the internal directories. He utilized a specialized cracking software he retained from his previous corporate security contracting days to aggressively attack the digital barriers restricting our access. The decryption progress bar crawled agonizingly slowly across the screen, while the computer fan whirred loudly before finally chiming a minor success notification, granting us limited entry. He bypassed the initial firewall successfully, but the deeper operating system completely rejected his subsequent override commands due to an advanced encryption wall. This hard drive is triple encrypted. I can only peel back the outermost layer containing the transfer reports, Elliot stated while clicking open a heavily redacted spreadsheet document. I leaned closer to the monitor utilizing my professional financial appraisal expertise to quickly scan the staggering columns of outbound wire transfers dominating the screen. The meticulously documented financial transactions I was currently reading extended far beyond the expected scope of any standard domestic family fraud or simple trust fund embezzlement. These complex spreadsheets meticulously detailed an extensive hidden network of untraceable shell companies, alongside massive streams of capital being actively funneled through unregulated offshore investment funds. I traced the specific routing numbers connecting my parents' legitimate real estate development firm directly to numerous anonymous holding accounts scattered across multiple foreign jurisdictions. It became disturbingly obvious they had spent several decades building an entirely fraudulent corporate infrastructure designed explicitly to hide massive quantities of illicit cash flowing inward from unknown external sources. This money is flowing through shell companies in the Cayman Islands. My parents are laundering money for another criminal organization. I realized aloud as the true terrifying scale of the illicit operation became entirely clear to both of us. The dark realization that Mom and Dad were functioning merely as obedient financial tools for a significantly more dangerous global syndicate meant our entire family was now standing directly in the crosshairs of ruthless criminals. The immediate level of physical danger surrounding our household had escalated completely beyond our civilian capacity to handle this escalating threat alone. I knew we absolutely could not safely use our personal cellular networks after Elliot previously discovered the black tracking vehicle following our every move earlier that morning. I reached deep into my coat pocket, pulling out a cheap prepaid burner phone I had purchased with cash at a local gas station during our tense drive back from the bank. I placed the crisp white Federal Bureau of Investigation business card Arthur had left inside the envelope flat onto the table before carefully dialing the direct operational number printed beneath the agent's name. The call connected after 2 brief rings, but the federal official answering the secure line did not offer any standard professional greeting to the unknown caller. Agent Vance maintained an extremely high level of operational caution the exact moment he picked up the receiver to assess the potential security breach. "Do not say your name over the phone. Read the serial number on the bottom right corner of the hard drive to verify," he commanded in a sharply disciplined tone that demanded absolute immediate compliance. I quickly flipped the cold metallic drive over, tracing my index finger along the engraved metal casing until I located the specific alphanumeric sequence he required to firmly establish my true identity. I read the 10-digit code aloud into the receiver while gripping the edge of the kitchen table as we officially crossed the point of no return. At exactly 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I pushed open the heavy glass door, stepping into a deserted coffee shop hidden completely beneath a commercial office building. I navigated deliberately through the dimly lit room to slide into a secluded corner booth where Agent Vance was already waiting in the shadows. I reached deep into my leather tote bag to retrieve the encrypted metal hard drive containing the damning financial evidence. I slid the cold device smoothly across the scratched wooden table toward the federal investigator without uttering a single word. Agent Vance did not immediately grab the crucial physical evidence I presented to him across the table. He carefully picked it up to scrutinize the physical serial number deeply engraved on the bottom corner of the metallic casing. He verified the alphanumeric sequence against a small notebook before finally securing the drive inside a specialized electronic shielding pouch hidden within his dark jacket. He leaned forward, resting his crossed forearms on the table to establish a tight perimeter of absolute privacy around our hushed conversation. Vance unexpectedly revealed he had known Arthur for several years regarding previous complex financial inquiries involving local corporate entities. I immediately questioned why he had not simply ordered the regional tactical units to raid my parents' estate that very morning to end this nightmare. Your grandfather is a careful man, but I cannot bring my team in when I do not know who inside the police department is taking money from this organization, Vance explained in a deadly serious tone. He strongly suspected a highly placed informant within the local precinct was actively protecting the massive offshore money laundering syndicate. The federal agent then pulled a single printed document from his leather folder to deliver a completely devastating update that froze my lungs. The primary medical facility treating my grandfather had just processed a legally binding termination directive authorized directly by Mom and Dad. Your parents just submitted the medical suspension request for the old man. We only have less than 6 hours left, he stated bluntly while tapping the official hospital form. The initial 24-hour survival window Arthur warned me about had been ruthlessly slashed down by their unexpected administrative maneuver. The hospital board was officially scheduled to terminate his essential life support systems shortly after 8 o'clock tonight. My breathing accelerated as absolute panic threatened to completely overwhelm my logical processing capabilities right there in the booth. Vance raised his right hand to demand my undivided focus on the immediate tactical objective required to save Arthur. The Bureau desperately needed substantial time to present our newly decrypted financial spreadsheets to a federal judge to secure a bulletproof arrest warrant. The only viable strategy to guarantee my parents did not accelerate their execution timeline or attempt to flee the state was to keep them completely distracted. You must attend that dinner, maintain a completely normal demeanor, and keep them occupied until the arrest warrant is signed, Vance commanded while staring intensely directly into my eyes. He systematically outlined the simultaneous covert operations his department was currently coordinating behind the scenes to dismantle the entire network. An elite federal rapid response team was actively staging in unmarked vehicles near the affluent residential neighborhood, waiting for the ultimate legal authorization to breach the property. Another undercover tactical medical extraction unit was simultaneously preparing to secure Arthur at the hospital the exact moment the raid began. Vance issued a strict final warning before standing up to leave the underground coffee shop. I was absolutely forbidden from making any sudden moves or aggressive accusations during the upcoming family meal. I had to flawlessly play the role of the perfectly obedient daughter sitting calmly inside a highly dangerous trap until the federal agents finally breached the front door. At exactly 7 o'clock in the evening, I rang the doorbell of the familiar red brick family mansion with my hand curled tightly inside my coat pocket. I stepped cautiously into the opulent dining room, immediately sensing a suffocating tension hiding completely beneath the glamorous architectural facade of my childhood home. Nobody sitting around the expansive mahogany table directly mentioned Arthur or the central bank vault, but their highly guarded physical gestures betrayed their severe internal paranoia. The extravagant crystal chandelier cast long, deceptive shadows across their tense faces, while the clanking sounds of heavy silver cutlery striking against porcelain plates echoed loudly throughout the unnervingly silent space. Every single movement they made appeared carefully calculated to project absolute normalcy, while hiding their true malicious intentions from my perceptive gaze. Mom initiated her carefully orchestrated emotional manipulation by pouring herself a large glass of expensive red wine while dramatically complaining about the overwhelming physical burden of managing a chronically ill relative. She deliberately weaponized my own maternal instincts to forcefully guide my compliance toward their imminent lethal medical decision regarding my grandfather. Grandfather has suffered enough. You are a mother, you must understand. Letting him go is a gentle release. She murmured softly with a perfectly practiced expression of fabricated sorrow, masking her true lethal agenda while sliding the necessary paperwork across the smooth tablecloth. I stared blankly at the thick legal guardianship document resting ominously beside my dinner plate before Dad impatiently decided to escalate the psychological warfare using direct financial intimidation. He leaned forward, aggressively resting his elbows heavily on the polished wooden table to visually dominate the conversation while issuing a thinly veiled threat regarding my personal wealth. If you do not sign this paper, my lawyer will be forced to freeze your trust account to serve the investigation. He stated coldly, without a single trace of paternal affection remaining anywhere in his hardened eyes. He pushed the official hospital suspension request closer toward my hands, expecting my immediate total submission to his overwhelming financial authority. Caleb sat completely motionless at the far corner of the long table, continuously spinning his mobile phone rapidly between his fingers in a highly disturbing rhythmic pattern. He occasionally paused his repetitive movements to shoot me an incredibly cold, threatening glare across the dimly lit room to silently communicate his own malicious intent. He finally broke his unnerving silence to verbally reinforce the severe consequences of my potential disobedience regarding the official medical documents. It is best to just do exactly what Father says. Do not bring trouble upon yourself beyond your capability. Caleb warned in a chillingly flat tone that strongly implied impending physical violence if I dared to resist their collective demands. I forced my hands to tremble visibly to successfully project the weak, obedient persona they all fully expected to witness during this highly coercive family confrontation. I slowly picked up the heavy gold pen resting beside the medical release form, but I intentionally stalled for crucial time before touching the metallic tip to the dotted line. I deflected their immediate demands by nervously asking several random questions concerning the current operational status of their various overseas business partners located in the Cayman Islands. My sudden unexpected inquiry regarding their offshore corporate entities caused a microscopic fracture in their confident facades, resulting in a heavy, uncomfortable silence descending abruptly upon the dining room. I kept the pen hovering just millimeters above the signature line, while silently praying the federal tactical team was finalizing their perimeter breach before my desperate stalling tactics completely ran out of plausibility. At exactly 8:15 in the evening, the distant wailing of police sirens began to shriek loudly, completely shattering the pristine silence of the affluent residential neighborhood. Just seconds before those rapidly approaching sirens became unmistakably clear to everyone inside the room, the glowing screen of Caleb's mobile phone suddenly illuminated with an urgent incoming text message from his unknown external contacts. His previously arrogant facial expression instantly twisted into absolute panic, while the suffocatingly tense atmosphere within the dining room abruptly exploded into total chaos. Damn it! There is an informant. The police are setting up a blockade at the end of the street. He yelled furiously while frantically wrestling with the complicated deadbolt lock on the back door. He forcefully kicked his heavy wooden chair backwards, crashing it violently onto the polished hardwood floor before sprinting desperately toward the rear kitchen exit to secure his own cowardly escape. He completely abandoned Mom and Dad, who initially remained completely frozen in their dining seats, staring blindly at his rapidly retreating back in utter bewilderment. Dad finally registered the catastrophic reality of the rapidly unfolding law enforcement raid, escalating right outside his manicured front lawn. He immediately lunged forward across the long dining table, violently snatching the thick legal folder containing the heavily forged guardianship documents right from under my waiting hands. He sprinted directly toward the blazing living room fireplace, desperately attempting to throw the damning physical evidence straight into the open flames to destroy the fraudulent signatures forever. He never even reached the edge of the stone hearth because the heavy oak front door suddenly burst completely open under the massive synchronized force of a federal tactical breaching ram. The expensive stained glass windows shattered outward, showering the entrance with sharp crystal fragments, as an entire heavily armed Federal Bureau of Investigation rapid response team flooded rapidly into the main hallway. The heavily armored officers aimed their tactical weapons directly at every single person attempting to move, while heavy black combat boots stomped aggressively across the polished marble floors, shaking the entire foundation of the house. Red laser sights swept frantically across the interior walls, identifying all potential targets, while multiple federal officers screamed overlapping commands, requiring everyone to drop to the floor and freeze immediately or face severe lethal consequences. Special Agent Vance strode confidently through the shattered entryway, holding a thick official document bearing a federal judge's authorizing signature directly in his gloved hand. He loudly read the comprehensive arrest warrant detailing numerous severe federal felony charges, including transnational money laundering, wire fraud, and conspiracy to commit premeditated murder against my parents and my fleeing brother. "Drop that folder away from the fireplace, step back, and put your hands behind your head immediately," Vance commanded with a booming, authoritative voice that completely paralyzed Dad midway through his desperate throw. Dad dropped the thick legal folder onto the carpet, raising his trembling hand slowly into the air in total submission, while Mom began sobbing uncontrollably near the dining table, begging loudly for legal representation. Heavily armored tactical agents swiftly tackled Caleb aggressively to the floor near the kitchen exit, violently subduing his frantic attempts to punch his way out of the secured perimeter. Simultaneously, other agents forced both Mom and Dad roughly down onto the expensive Persian rug, ignoring their frantic pleas for mercy and immediate explanations regarding this massive federal intrusion. The tactical officers expertly pinned their arms tightly behind their backs, ensuring they could not attempt any further physical resistance or destroy any surrounding financial evidence hidden within the house. I coldly took several deliberate steps backward, completely removing myself from the chaotic center of the room to silently observe the absolute destruction of my deceptive, biological family. I looked directly down at their terrified faces pressed firmly against the cold floorboards, feeling absolutely zero pity for the ruthless criminals they had ultimately chosen to become in their endless pursuit of wealth. "You do not need to find a way to silence grandfather anymore. He is already at a military medical facility," I stated in a flat, detached tone while watching the heavy steel handcuffs click tightly shut around their wrists. 6 months later, I sat quietly on the freezing cold wooden benches inside the massive federal courtroom, waiting for the final resolution. The stern judge finally slammed his heavy wooden gavel down onto the solid block to deliver the ultimate verdict, ending this nightmare. Mom, Dad, alongside Caleb, all received extensive sentences in a maximum security federal penitentiary without any possibility of early parole. The government immediately seized their entire domestic real estate portfolio, while liquidating every single offshore shell company to facilitate the ongoing international money laundering investigation. I stood up slowly, walking straight out into the brightly lit marble hallway without looking back toward the defense tables. I eventually passed right by them as heavily armed bailiffs escorted them toward the secure holding cells. I offered them absolutely nothing but a completely soulless stare, ignoring their desperate pleas. I firmly severed those toxic biological ties right there in the corridor, without offering a single ounce of forgiveness or potential reconciliation. Special Agent Vance stepped directly into my path just as I reached the heavy glass exit doors. He looked around the bustling lobby cautiously before lowering his voice to deliver a chilling final update regarding the ongoing case. He explicitly warned me that my parents merely represented a tiny disposable link within a massive global criminal syndicate. The primary offshore master account remained completely active somewhere overseas. I drove back to the quiet safety of my suburban home, trying desperately to process this terrifying new reality. I had barely locked the heavy front door when my burner phone suddenly vibrated violently deep inside my winter coat pocket. I opened the encrypted device to discover a cryptic anonymous email containing absolutely no subject line or text message whatsoever. It displayed only a precise set of unfamiliar global positioning coordinates, indicating that a dangerous, unseen presence was still silently watching us from the shadows. The Gentle Drama Stories channel presents this narrative strictly for educational purposes, to convey a critical message regarding personal boundaries. We aim to illustrate how individuals can successfully navigate severe family crises by relying entirely on objective logic alongside the established legal system. Whitney decisively protected her own life and her immediate family by completely severing all ties with her highly toxic biological relatives. She absolutely refused to become a sacrificial victim for their criminal greed. The antagonists ultimately suffered the severe but entirely inevitable federal legal consequences resulting directly from their profoundly malicious financial decisions. This harrowing experience teaches several brutal yet profoundly necessary lessons regarding human nature, alongside familial loyalty. Biological ties do not guarantee humanity or moral integrity. When your own blood relatives are entirely consumed by the absolute power of money, they will readily sacrifice your life to protect their illicit wealth. Unchecked greed destroys everything it touches. The relentless pursuit of illegal financial gain does not simply burn through offshore bank accounts. It completely eradicates all familial love alongside basic human empathy. Walking away is not an act of cruelty, but a vital exercise in self-preservation. Decisively cutting off toxic family members represents a perfectly justified defense mechanism to shield yourself from absolute destruction. True family consists of the people who bravely protect you during the darkest storms, rather than the monsters who intentionally push you directly into the abyss. We sincerely thank every single viewer who patiently stayed with us until the very final moments of this intense journey. We truly appreciate your continued support. If you were standing in my position, would you possess the courage to confront your own family while accepting a life of perpetual vigilance? Please share your honest thoughts in the comments below. Remember to subscribe so you never miss another story.